What's going on? Today I'm going to show you how to build this spotlight effect in Webflow with a little bit of custom CSS and JavaScript. So let's get started.
Hey there, Web Bay.
All right, so we'll get started here by dropping in a layout div, and this layout div has a min height of 100 dynamic viewport heights aligned to center with a display of flex. And now in there, I'm going to drop my spotlight div. This is going to have position absolute with inset 0, such that it's covering the entirety of the screen, and we'll write the CSS for our spotlight in just a second. If we come down here, we'll also see that I've set blending mode to darken. You can experiment with any of these to change how the spotlight actually looks. Now also in this, I'm setting an attribute bay element equals to spotlight, and this is going to be used by our JavaScript to listen for a mouse move event on the element with this attribute. All right, so next we're going to drop in our content div, and this is styled with position relative just so that it renders on top of the other items. And then down here, we have pointer events set to none. Remember, we're listening for the mouse move event in our spotlight div, and we don't want to listen to mouse move events on the content div because that would interfere with our spotlight interaction and our JavaScript. All right, now I'm just going to drop it in a code embed. This is our script right here. Let's go ahead and open this. And we see that I'm just loading this from my local development server. When I publish this as a clonable, I'll drop the whole script in here. And finally here in Webflow, we're going to drop our custom CSS. Now I'm going to use an embed here just because I think it's easier to demonstrate how to do this. So we'll start by looking at the root element, and we're going to define a number of CSS variables so that we can customize the spotlight really easily. So this is going to be the X coordinate starting point. This is going to be the Y coordinate starting point. We have the size of our spotlight. We have the base color, the spot color, and the opacity. Now let's go ahead and drop in our one little CSS snippet that's a little bit long, but we can walk through it step by step. So we're targeting the class of spotlight1 underscore spotlight. And to that, we're going to add this background. Now check out this background. It's a radial gradient. And here's what's going on inside of this radial gradient. We have a circle at our starting position, so 50%, 50%. What our JavaScript is going to do is it's going to actually modify these values based on the mouse position. Next, for our radial gradient, we want to specify the color. And so for that, we're using the spot color. So that's actually the middle, which we're just going to have as be white. But if you wanted to tint it red or tint it blue or something like that, you could do it. And then we're mixing in our opacity here with the spotlight base color. So that's the background color, that kind of black color that we have. Let me actually just save this and we'll see it render on the screen. And I'll bring this embed back to the middle of the screen now. And then the last thing that's going on is that we are setting the spotlight size with our size variable right there. So you could hard code all this, but I wanted to make it really easy for you to just pop this in your project and then update these values based on what you want. So, I mean, for example, let's say we update this to 50. Then now you see the spotlight gets bigger, put that back to 30. And we could change the, spotlight X coordinate over to 10%. And now we see it has moved over there. So you just kind of get an idea of what's going on with this thing. And then if we change the opacity to 50%, it's like definitely not very good. I think something pretty high, like 96% is the way to go. And then if we change our spot color to something like, I don't know, let's just do something random, F7E, then we can see it has kind of that pink tint. Anyways, I'm going to put this back to white. And so now we've done the CSS. Let's finish this off with some JavaScript. All right, we're going to start by selecting that element with the attribute bay element equals to spotlight. We're storing that in our variable here called spotlight. Next, we're going to define a function called move, and this E is a parameter here for the event that we get. Remember, I said pointer events earlier. We're setting none on the heading, but we definitely want to track the mouse move event in that spotlight div. So inside of move, we're going to get our spotlight. We're going to access the style. And then we're going to set a property. Now we want to set that CSS variable spotlight1-x to be the event.clientX coordinate. And then we're just adding the string px for pixels on the end of that. And we're going to do the same with that y coordinate here. Now, the final thing we need to do is actually invoke this move function. And first we want to check if our device actually is a hover device. So like a desktop, something that has a mouse. If this is a touch device, it doesn't really make sense to have a hover effect on there. So the spotlight will just be disabled and it'll be in the center of the screen there. And you could style it how you want on mobile. But if this does match, then what we want to do is add our event listener for mouse move and call our move function. So we can go ahead and save this and check our result. All right, and if we run this now, we see we've got our spotlight effect and the mouse is following and everything is working just great. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're curious to write more JavaScript, then definitely check out my Patreon where I have a full JavaScript in Webflow course available for you to check out. Anyways, see you in the next one.